How low can Donald Trump's approval rating go? Already, he starts out as one of the most unpopular presidents to ever take office. I mean, his first couple of weeks, he's only been in for a month, and already he has really low approval ratings. Usually it takes a while of not doing anything or doing terrible things or doing not what you're saying you're going to do in order to get to this low of an approval rating. And I'll get to the numbers in a minute. But he has achieved the impossible, being the most unpopular president to ever come into office. Now, this is according to a new Gallup poll that was taken. Only 40% of Americans approve of the job that the president is doing. So 40% a job approval rating. Now, there is a 55% job disapproval rating. So that's a big majority of Americans saying, I really don't like what Donald Trump's doing. He sucks. Well, I said that. I don't know if they said that. But they certainly don't like what he's doing. They certainly don't like how he's handling this job. Now, the results, of course, are based on a 3-day rolling average. Now, the daily results are based on interviews with about 1,500 adults, and the margin of error is 3%. So it could be 37%, or it could be 43%. Either way, disaster. Absolute disaster. So that's what we have. Now, of course, the Hill notes that the president's approval ratings have been dropping slightly since he assumed office. At the beginning of his presidency, Trump had about a 45% job approval rating, and that's, of course, an average of all the different polls. Some of them had him down as low as 37%. Others had him, of course, at 45. No, even with that, that's really low for an incoming president. Let me give you some context here. President Obama, when he was elected in 2008, had a 70% approval rating. Let's go back further. George W. Bush, when in 2000, he came in with a 66% job approval rating. George W. Bush is the only other guy that got elected with a minority of the popular vote. Same thing as Trump. But even George W. Bush was much more popular as an incoming president than Donald Trump. Disaster. That is a disaster for an incoming president. Now, again, to put Trump in contrast with this, his approval rating is essentially lower than Obama's lowest rating. Obama's lowest rating happened in the 6th year. In the 6th year, full disclosure, that's usually when people are sick of the president, when he's 6 years in. And that's when they usually get the lowest approval ratings. Barack Obama's lowest approval rating was about 42.5%. Now, of course, all presidents go through times where their approval ratings are very low. Again, 6th year. And, of course, sometimes they go through a period of where their approval ratings are actually really good. I mean, for example, after 2001, specifically 9/11, George Bush's job approval rating jumped to 90%. 90%. Now, of course, he left office in 2008 with 22%. So just to show you how this can swing wildly depending on what actually happens. So there's your context, right? Now, Trump's highest, 45%. Now it's 40, and it's dropping. And look, there's evidence that a lot of people really are not happy with this guy. There are protests everywhere. Not only that, but there are a lot of people that are pissed off at Republicans going to these town halls and demonstrating. I mean, you have all sorts of different people coming out against him, whether it be the Hollywood types and just regular people that are going to these town halls and telling people, hey, we are not happy with the direction the country is going. We're not happy with what Donald Trump said he's going to do. So we are pissed off, and we're not going to take it anymore. And of course, this is because some of the decisions that he's made that have gone contrary to what he actually ran on. For example, he said, we're going to drain the swamp. We're going to drain the swamp. You know what he did? He filled the swamp full of Goldman Sachs. Come on, man. He also nominated the most unqualified Secretary of Education, I think, and has ever been nominated. Remember, Betsy DeVos never went to public school, never managed anything. Not just a school. She never managed anything. She has 0 job experience. The only thing that she's done is, oh, look, she gave $200 million to the Republican Party. She bought that seat. It was purchased. If that's not cronyism, if that's not the very thing Donald Trump said he was going to fight against, I don't know what is. She literally bought a seat. Not only that, but he hasn't done anything to actually fight the political establishment or the global financial elite. I mean, the one good thing that we can point to is that he stopped the TPP. That's great. At least I give him credit for that. But that's it. As far as stopping the global financial elite, oh, he stopped him all right by sticking him in his cabinet. I mean, Steven Mnuchin, Gary Cohn, Stephen Bannon, former Goldman Sachs guy, and many more. You've got to be kidding me. He filled the swamp. He filled the swamp. Now, look, I'm going to go on a bit of a speculation here, since we're on the whole issue of poll numbers. I've been having these thoughts, right? Where, I mean, we look at George W. Bush's numbers. I mentioned 90%. What made his popularity go up that high? Well, it was after the September 11th terrorist attacks. It gets you thinking, what if that happens again? What's going to happen with Donald Trump's popularity? If it could save the inept George W. Bush administration, at least for a short while, what would it do to a Donald Trump administration? And look, I hate to say this because I hope it never, ever happens, right? I hope we never have another terrorist attack. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it never happens. Jesus Christ. But look, the danger of Donald Trump and Steve Bannon is that he's not exactly going out of his way to prevent another terrorist attack. And Steve Bannon, and look, I'll get into this in another segment, but Steve Bannon should scare the shit out of everybody because he actually does want a conflict. I mean, you look into some of the things that Steve Bannon actually believes needs to happen. He wants another war. He believes in some scary shit. We need another war, he says, to bring fundamental change. The type of change that he wants to see. Like a new beginning or some crazy stuff. Oh boy. And look, man, if the Trump administration continues to antagonize Muslims, the Mexicans, Iran, or China, right? He could have one. And if we end up having a war with any one of those, we all lose. Scary. And again, those George W. Bush numbers, 90% after 9/11. Anybody who went against the president, traitor. Traitor, you are un-American. Remember what happened to the Dixie Chicks? Remember what happened to anybody who spoke out against the war and said, hey, you know what, this is wrong. Oh, scary, scary, man. And of course, on George W. Bush, this is an attack that he could have prevented, but he did not. He didn't even try to prevent it. Oh, bin Laden, poised to strike America. Oh, okay, well, good, great. We're going to ignore that piece of intel. Oh, they attacked the World Trade Center? Oh, crap. And again, with Steve Bannon, he might actually want something like that. And again, that's the scary thing about this whole thing. But anyway, that speculation aside, based on what I know from Steve Bannon and some of the recent stuff that's come out about him, and I'm going to do, again, something a little bit more in-depth about that. Scary. But for right now, Donald Trump's numbers are awful. Disaster. And I do wonder how low they can actually go. For that, we'll have to wait and see. We'll wait and see what he does and whether or not his own supporters start to get sick of him. And we've already seen a little bit of evidence of that. But there are a group of supporters, the people who wanted to break up the establishment, once they all get on the same page that, oh, he is the establishment, then, well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.